Hello, hello. So this is my Creeping Frost Trickster, and to get right into the mechanics, using the new helmet with increases and reductions to invasion also apply to spell damage, combined with perfect form, evasion rating is increased by overcap cold resistance, comboed with the cold mastery here for cold damage over time multiplier for each overcapped cold resistance, and then stacking a bunch of cold resistance to increase both our increased damage, increase our invasion, and increase our cold dot multiplier to give us plenty of damage on our Creeping Frost flows. And that's pretty much the gist of the build. I'll hop into a map and talk about it some more. So nothing too crazy on the map side. I wouldn't call this a pure cold dot build just because my plan going into this was I just wanted to use Creeping Frost Flows, and then occasionally I'll put in Vol Cold Snap. But so I'm not using like Vortex, not using Wintertide Brand, just pure Creeping Frost Flows. So it plays very smoothly. Can just run around, plop down the Creeping Frost, and once everything's ramped up, let's see, about 4 million DPS on the tooltip, and most things just melt away quite easily. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this. This has been a really nice build to get through the challenges, farm maps, farm the depths, do some delving. It's a very clean map, or very clean build. As you can see, there's probably the most visual clarity you can get out of a build ever. Just because all the visual of Creeping Frost is just a small little white cloud on the ground. So literally no projectile spam, no screen clutter, no nothing. Super clean. And so yeah. Very smooth build. Decent enough for bossing. I've done a couple Ubers with it. I guess the chest bugged. Not the best Uber bosser in the world because you still have to do the mechanics, but the damage is perfectly fine. And the great thing about this damage is because of the mechanics with Creeping Frost, there's no ramp up period. You can pre-fire. You can have your Creeping Frost already down, and then as soon as the enemy becomes damageable, they start taking damage, which is pretty nice. And that's what I've really enjoyed about this build, honestly. It's just, there's no, you don't have to stand and spam, you don't have to ramp up a bunch of poisons, you just immediately get your dot damage, and you're that's it. You can chill. If you need to dodge mechanics, you can dodge mechanics. Your DPS stays up. If you need to, do whatever, it sort of almost feels a bit like a totem, where you can just put your damage down and then be looting, picking things up. Very smooth to play. So yeah, that's the gist of it. And let's get into how I put the build together. So let's start with the gear. I already mentioned the key components are the unblinking eye with the perfect form. I really do think the perfect form is pretty good here because it's much more accessible, and you also get the spell suppress. So we're spell suppress capped here thanks to this. And there's other options with this, the really expensive options are the breach chests that have the same evasion increase by overkept cold resist mod, so you can get it on a rare chest, but that's super high budget. And and also with the new vestigial. I was looked into a lot of those, but none of the other unique chests really stood out compared to this, especially on Trickster, because we want high evasion on our body chest. And so getting the evasion, getting a spell suppress, ghost dance is basically +1 passive point here. This body armor works out great. The other gear, I ended up going for Dark Seer and combined this with taking the Born in the Shadow node from Saboteur to give us blind, and then the malediction from blind. So that's 10% increased damage, plus the blind effect pairs really well with the evasion. This also gives us some levels here as well. So went with Dark Seer, and then just a decent shield with +1 cold and as much energy shield as I could get. Replica Dragon Fangs on the amulet, because like I said, I wanted to focus just on Creeping Frost and not have any other buttons. So went for +3 Creeping Frost on here. And then didn't have the +1 curse to start for a while. This is a recent upgrade. +1 curse on here is quite nice to have. And then the other gear is just rares with getting energy shield and then cold resistance. The lightning resistance here isn't doing anything. I'm just trying to get as much cold or as much energy shield and cold resistance, energy shield, cold resistance, and move speed, and then just getting energy shield, cold resistance here. The rings, both these rings I was able to buy, they're pretty decent with stacking all the stats I want: evasion, energy shield. Do need a bit of mana, and then just cold resistance. Same ring over here. And yeah, that's all the gear. For the gems, Creeping Frost is the main gem in the 6th link here, and then concentrated effect, Inspiration to help with the mana, Hypothermia, Swift Affliction, and Control Destruction. There's a couple other options. If you can like find a way to do Arcane Surge, you can. Arcane Surge is a pretty good link as well, but I didn't have a great way to like maintain the Arcane Surge buff, so ended up with these links here. In the helmet is where I've got the auras, so stacking more resistance with Purity Vice and Purity of Elements. I've gone back and forth between Purity of Elements and Malevolence. Malevolence is slightly better. You get like 10 more dot multi compared to Purity of Elements, but the ailment immunity, I didn't have any other way to solve ailment immunity currently, so went back to actually Purity of Elements to deal with like chills and shocks and stuff like that. And then Flesh and Stone for the other aura, all linked with Enlighten to help fit into the pool. Over here is the curse setup, so using Bane to apply all 3 curses at the same time with Ellie Weakness, Frostbite, and Punishment for more damaging. Over here is the Vol Cold Snap. So I don't think it ever used to be like this. This might be a new bug, but anyway, this is Vol Cold Snap. You just can't see it all at the same time. And just linked with some damage supports for Control Destruction, Efficacy, Hypothermia, for just a little extra button here. This is honestly mainly Vol Cold Snaps for Frenzy Charge generation. So you can use this to help maintain your Frenzy Charges or generate Frenzy Charges from a boss, because we are invested highly in Frenzy Charges for this build. Over here, did an automation setup with Steel Skin to deal with bleeding, give a little extra life pool, more duration there. And then movement skills in the Scepter with Shield Charge, faster attacks, and then Frost Blink to blink around. So that is all of the skills. If we look into the tree, so the key thing with the tree is Supreme Ostentation. Probably my favorite keystone in the game, giving us to ignore attribute requirements, and that lets us tattoo all of this dexterity nodes coming down here to get our Frenzy Charge and Frenzy Charge generation. All these are all cold resistance. So that's most of the tree, going down here for Frenzy Charges and cold resistance and jewel sockets and whatnot. Then on the top side of the tree, more jewel sockets and getting a bit of evasion, energy shield stuff, the cold damage, and then the cold mastery. Like I mentioned at the start, this is the kind of the build enabling mastery here to give us multiplier as well as increased spell damage from our cold resistance. Up here at the top, also getting mastery for +1 levels. The new keystone here to give us more damage based off our chill effect. And then, yeah, going CI, +1 curse here, a little more energy shield up on the top, and then I've tattooed all these nodes with the increased energy shield to give us a little bit more of a life pool since we are CI here. And then the other key thing with the tree is these big clusters here. So I did try crafting some of these, but I got lucky and was eventually able to just buy them. So the setup with this is getting 12 passive with cold res, alt res, and then increased effect. And then the fourth passive, you can get like mana ones, and this one I was able to get energy shield. So that gives us a bunch more LE resistance, cold resistance to stack on all these nodes, and just stacking up more here. And like in PoB, like each of these jewels, I've got 2 of them, is like more than 30%. It's like a third of the damage is coming from these cluster jewels here. So this was pretty fun. I've never done like a big cluster jewel stack like this. So it was fun to hunt down these jewels, and these nodes are quite nice because you're stacking all of your evasion and damage at the same time. The small jewel here is honestly not too critical, just sort of a bit more effective cold elements. I'm not quite to 30% chill effect. I think it's like 20 something, like 25-ish. So I still need a little bit more chill effect, some chill effect there, some more ES there. Rare jewel, just with more of the same cold resistance, energy shield stuff. And then down at the bottom, we've got a similar jewel with, I think this one's only, this is only a T2 energy shield, but same idea with getting the resistances. There is a trick if you want to try to find similar jewels. You can just find T1 of any resistance, cold, fire, or lightning, and then swap it with the harvest bench. So I think this one, it was a swap. It like came with lightning res and then swapped it to cold, but same idea, same sort of jewel setup down here. And then Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh for Born in the Shadows to enable the blind synergies. For the Watcher's Eye, just getting a little extra max res from Purity of Elements, and some trying out the fire and lightning damage taken as cold. It hasn't been super noticeable, but it I suppose it helps. And then, yeah, other than that, I did go for, the Impossible Escape here. So along with the Supreme Ostentation for attribute requirements, I'm also getting, cold resistance here. So from the calculator, the most you can get is 2 cold resistance nodes. And then I went for one that gave me a little bit of mana reservation, because I'm not like fully sustaining mana, but you don't really need to sustain mana because it's a damage over time. So you've got time for the mana to recover. But this extra mana pool is quite nice. This is not super necessary. This was just kind of there to help a little bit with mana pool, but could probably be moved around. And then, other than that, to cap out spell suppress, we get our spell suppress wheel here and +3 prevention here. So just this wheel and the perfect form and a little bit from the helmet is all we need to overcap spell suppress, which is nice. And then for the ascendancy, going trickster to give us the frenzy charge, so +2 frenzy charge there, and the charge duration is quite nice, both for frenzy charges and the inspiration charges. Polymath was like the last note I took. I haven't tried, I did get the bloodline. I haven't tried any of these, like the new drowning domain type stuff, but the mana unkill and ES unkill from Polymath is kind of carrying me right now, so I probably will stick with that. And then taking the defensive nodes, so getting ES from the body armor, and then the extra spell suppression ES recharge suppress here node from the trickster stuff. Plus you get increased evasion, which is on the small nodes. That's also increased spell damage for us as well. So that is everything on the tree. That is everything with the gear. For flasks, I also just stacking more resistance from the flasks. I think the cold flask is worth it. The bismuth flask might be better as a jade flask or something like that, but went ahead and rolled one of these, movement speed, and then a phasing flask just to help phase through. Mana flasks when I need it on occasion to help cap off our mana. And that is pretty much it. Been getting through the challenges. Pantheons, because I went back to purity of elements, I switched over to the Solaris Pantheon, but you can kind of adjust as you see fit. Aracali would be good. And then, of course, you always have to take immune to Burning Ground because Burning Ground sucks. But the Malevolence can slot into here, so I did run Malevolence instead of Purity of Elements for a while, and when I was doing that, I switched over to Brine King to help deal with freeze. So yeah, kind of customized to see how you feel good with it. So yeah, overall, build's been super smooth. Having just like an incredible amount of dot damage just up and pre-fired and ready there is very nice. Like doing delve, and it's like as soon as the enemies pop out of the ground, they instantly die. Super fun, super smooth, convenient sort of gameplay. And yeah, definitely would recommend playing around with this combo. The helmet has started to get a little more expensive, unfortunately. Like when I first bought the helmet, when I was putting this build together, it was like, I think I got it for like 30C to like get the helmet, and then I sold it for like 2D when I upgraded to this one. All you need on this helmet for this build is purely just the evasion rating. So the other stats, the suppress, you'll have more than enough, and dexterity doesn't matter since we're supreme ostentation. So just get as high evasion rating as you can get a decent perfect form with some plus levels, or even without plus levels. The nice thing about this build is it's very like self-funding. So this is pretty decent investment in all the slots. But when you first start off, you don't need to, you don't have to put this big of investment in all the slots at the beginning. You can just have slightly less of a life pool, less ES on the gear. Just have like a normal plus 1 wand, or the what's that one that I started with? The Foulborn tool guy. That's got like the +3 to cold gems. You can use that wand instead until you get like the Born in the Shadow node, stuff like that. So to get it off the ground, unfortunately the helmet's a little more expensive now, but just getting the helmet and the body armor is all you really need. And then you can slowly start scaling from there, right? You get plenty of overcap from the auras to start, and then getting gear with just cold res and going from there. And then as you level up, you get more damage, you get more ES, and it's a very fun build to progress because it's done a great job of just like very slowly coming together and building up piece by piece, and putting each tattoo, one at a time. You get a little boost in your DPS, and you get a boost in your evasion. So yeah, it's been very decent. Its main weakness is like fizz spells, I would say. So you kind of have to dodge around those a little bit. But overall, the blind synergies and flesh and stone and all that, the downside of the helmet hasn't been that noticeable at all, especially since right side, you basically never have fizz reduction anyway. So it's worked out pretty good. Very fun to play. And also you could use this base for more traditional cold dot as well. Like if you wanted to play like the Wintertide brand, or I actually technically have Cold Snap as a button I could push, but I just never use it because I just want to push Creeping Frost. So this combination can work really well with other cold dots as you see fit. But yeah, check it out, have some fun with it, and thanks for watching.